people have suffered severe adverse reactions. Far more people injured by the vaccine than were injured by COVID. And then the same people have impunity, exemption from prosecution, impunity from paying for indemnity for the people that they injured. That's the reality of how crooked our governmental system is. Many of the people, I've got a personal friend who died supposedly from COVID. When he was ill, they took him into hospital in December 2020. He went to hospital with pneumonia. And my guess, from what I was told about what happened to him, is they decided he's on end of life. Once they decide he's on end of life, they started administering midazolam and morphine. Once they do that, midazolam and morphine, these were people with pneumonia. And they got midazolam and morphine, which suppresses your breathing. So it exacerbated and accelerated deaths. That's the reality of how the NHS, under Matt Hancock, operated during the pandemic. And so these people cannot be trusted 1 centimetre, not 1 centimetre. And Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer have both declared uncritical support for Israel in slaughtering the biggest slaughter. They've dropped more bombs on Gaza than they dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in the Second World War. More bomb firepower on Gaza, on the children and women in Gaza, than they dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. 3 Hiroshima and Nagasaki's were dropped on Gaza. 35,000 people killed. 25,000 or so women and children killed by our democratic government. That's how democratic they are. They don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about people around the world. Look, when the COVID story ended, you may remember, 22nd or 24th of February 2022, COVID was declared over on the same day that the war in Ukraine began. And all of a sudden you were told, coincidental of course, you were told all of a sudden, we are now, and everywhere around the country, government buildings started flying a foreign flag. The Ukrainian flag was hoisted over Downing Street, hoisted over the Treasury, hoisted over the foreign. Are we an occupied country?
Just by chance.
How did Ukraine suddenly become the flag we fly? By the way, the Palestinian flag, of course, is the flag of Hamas. How many times have they told you? How many times have they told you? On television. That anyone who marches in London, even if it's 1 million people marching in London,
Ukraine is allowed.
they are, of course, anyone marching in London is a hate marcher. Because of October the 7th. On October the 7th, they tell you, babies were put in ovens. They had their heads chopped off them. Mass rapes took place. There were no mass rapes.
Even Israeli media.
There were no babies put in ovens. There were no babies beheaded. But they put that out there for weeks on end in order to propagate a sense in the population to support these lies. These are the people who are asking you for their vote in the election. These are the views they represent. These are the interests they represent. They are in hock to the Israel lobby, as is the American political system. In hock to the Israel lobby, to the Zionist lobby that controls America, controls a large part of American and British policy and European policy, by the way. And in the Ukraine war, hundreds of thousands of people are facing each other in trenches, like the First World War, but trenches with modern technology, with drones, with artificial intelligence, with modern weaponry. And then some of you might have seen that goon, Boris Johnson, who scuppered a peace deal at the beginning of the conflict. He scuppered a peace deal by promising the Ukrainians, we will back you to the end. Of course, what it meant was, we will back Ukraine till the last Ukrainian dies. And then, of course, the war, they will declare a peace program with Russia. Russia has won the war in Ukraine, despite what the Americans have been saying, despite what the British. Yes, there's no way Ukraine can win the war. No way. They are calling up young people living in Poland, Ukrainian young people living in Poland who escaped from the country. They are being forced to return to Ukraine to be used as cannon fodder on the Eastern Front. That's the reality of what's happening. And your money is being used to pay for all of this. Your money. And how do you know it's your money? That's why the energy bills went up. That's why the food price, and they terminally got inflated. So Rishi Sunak had the gall to turn around on whatever it was, turn around and say, inflation has come down. In the last 2 years, inflation of food, basics of our life, bread, butter, milk, eggs, baked beans, eggs, they all shot through the roof. 20 to 50% rise in prices for the majority of working people. Rental prices in London, for example, have gone through the roof. What 2 years ago was £1,500 for a one-bedroom flat. One-bedroom flat in London is now £2,000 for a one-bedroom flat in London. The people cannot survive in these conditions. All supposedly for us to defend Ukraine against Russian aggression. Yet we were responsible for putting the government in power that overthrew the elected government of Ukraine in 2014, when the war in Ukraine began. It began 2014, not 2022, as they like to make out. NATO was responsible for causing the war in Ukraine, and they have to own that responsibility for causing the war. So the idea that the election is here to represent Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer as representatives of the people is a farce. And as I said before, only the degree that the Workers' Party and independents get elected against the mainstream, only that is the worthy cause of this election. And I hope that does happen.
Yeah. The IOC have issued arrest warrants for certain people. Do you think they should do it for the Russian people? Do you think they should issue arrest warrants for Russia as well?
They have issued arrest warrants for Vladimir Putin.
So then why is it not happening and how it happened?
Well, they've issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu, but nobody seriously believes they will arrest him. Nobody seriously believes that. The British establishment would do everything possible to back Israel. That's the truth about it. They're in hock to Israel. Israel pays them to do what they're bidding. That's why Jeremy Corbyn was removed. So Israel intervenes in the British political process to control who the leader is inside the British Labour Party. That's what was shown by Jeremy Corbyn being ousted as leader of the party, and now he's standing independent. He has to stand independent because that's how powerful the Israel lobby is inside the British Labour Party. Russia has manpower. It has resources. The Ukrainians have limited manpower. They're drawing on the last reserves they can draw. How many people can they afford to lose? It's a limited number of people. The Russians outgun them and outnumber them. They will inevitably win the war. Simple as that. And the sooner you recognise that, the better. But of course, they don't want that war to end. Because they're making, these people, they say we're giving, this is another con. They say we're giving money to the Ukrainians. In reality, what they're doing is they give money to Ukraine to buy British weapons. And then they fire those weapons at the Ukrainians and the Russians. Many Ukrainians, don't forget, in eastern Ukraine are supporting Russia. That's where the war began. with people in eastern Ukraine who support Russia, fighting against the western Ukrainians, many of them backed by neo-Nazi forces in Ukraine. And they used to be called neo-Nazis before 2022. If you look up Azov Battalion, you will see they were defined by the British government as terrorists and as neo-Nazis. And yet after February 2020, a change took place. You can look online, backwards in time, and you will see the people we are supporting in Ukraine were called neo-Nazis by The Guardian, The Independent and the BBC. Look online and you will see. Look backwards from before 2022. So why are we now supporting neo-Nazis and terrorists? Why are we now supporting them? For the same reason we're supporting the murderous, barbaric attacks against the people in Gaza, in order to serve the interests of the ruling elite who control society around the world, control big pharma, big tech, the military and the banks. That's the reality of politics in Britain, America and Europe today. Beg pardon?
Yeah, we want to talk. We want to talk with you. What are you arguing about?
We've only just arrived. It's full of discussion.
Okay. Excuse me?
Very clever intervention.
Excuse me? What are you talking about? Say.
We were talking about the election, Gaza, Israel.
And also issued
and
arrest.
Russia. Oh, let's talk about Russia.
They've also issued arrest Hamas. Who's going to arrest them and how do you think they can go about it?
Well,
who's going to arrest these people?